Mr. Chairman, my follow-up will be that I have in my hands, and this is all about government lands. Of course, I mean, the nominee is literally established and conceded that the president's daughter did not buy state lands. If they were government lands as far back as 1969, they were not state lands at the time when they were tenants, as you know, they are tenants of that place.
Please,
but anyway,
your follow-up question.
The follow-up
Please, your follow-up question.
Mr. Chairman, please, this being a house of records, I have not admitted.
I know.
I haven't said
house of records.
I'm saying that
you never
the record I have, what the Lands Commission gave me.
Therefore,
when I conduct official
rescind your decision and apologize.
So
please go ahead with
I'm
your
not
question.
changing my stance on the matter.
I've not litigated that. I will not litigate that. All that I said was that the evidence is clear that the land was bought as far back as 1969. The president's children are just tenants, so they did not buy state land. That's the point I'm making. It's not, I'm not litigating with you, Mr. Nominee. I'm just setting the record straight that they did not buy state land as you suggested. So, Mr. Chairman, the follow-up will be, and this really is flowing from the issue of the nominees' standing and reputation on the protection of public funds, state lands, and all of that. And the question is simple. I mean, I know the chairman is in a hurry to move on with his vetting.
So long as the question relates to the acquisition as a follow-up, I will allow it.
Yes.
If not, I will overrule you.
Well, it relates to the protection of state estates, generally speaking. And the question is very simple. In that protection, Mr. Chairman, you will see that the nominee has, on multiple occasions, asked for, quotes, the state to eschew frivolous foreign travels by government officials, end quote, and gone at great length to make the point about how we need to be frugal. I know that the foreign minister travels on first-class ticket. Will he travel on economy ticket when he's made foreign minister?
Accordingly, the question is overruled. There can be a follow-up question on acquisition of land. You are done. I then give the floor to Honorable Ziwera. Honorable Ziwera, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to congratulate my boss and my mentor, and to wish him well. Congratulations, Honorable Ablakwa. Your leadership has been exemplary. Mr. Chairman, I served with Honorable Ablakwa on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And if you look for a team player, you'll find it in Honorable Ablakwa. Honorable Ablakwa, extent of knowledge in the foreign ministry and international relations makes him the best choice, actually, for this position. And I want to commend highly President Mahama for giving us this choice. We know that with your extensive experience, with your knowledge, and with your excellent human relations, you are going to lift the flag of Ghana very high in the Committee of Nations. I can only wish you well, and I say congratulations, Honorable Ablakwa. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Order. Order. Thank you. Order. Order. I proceed to give the floor to Honorable Soa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Honorable nominee, my Anglican brother, I wish to congratulate you on your nomination by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. And I am sure and I trust that you are going to deliver well to the people of Ghana. My question, how will you make our embassies and high commissions more responsive to Ghanaians in the diaspora?
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Odole. I call her the MP with the most embassies in Ghana. Virtually all the embassies and high commissions are in her constituency. This is a very, very important question, and Ghanaians in the diaspora are really concerned about how our embassies and high commissions can be more responsive. As ranking member, I advocated strongly for the establishment of a consular fund. I was shocked to learn that our hardworking foreign service staff have to sometimes contribute their own money from their pockets to assist distressed Ghanaians out there who need consular assistance. In the budget for the Foreign Service, we don't have a line item for consular relations. And you know, under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, 1963, countries must extend these courtesies to their citizens. So, as Foreign Minister, when given the nod, I will make sure that we establish the consular fund. We must make sure that this fund exists, that can be assessed by our foreign service staff to extend assistance, particularly in this period where the United States has announced mass deportations. Those who may be rounded up to be deported are entitled to consular support. We must get them legal assistance so that they are not just rounded up and deported, their rights violated. You know, sometimes even in the deportation, how they are deported, sometimes chained to seats and all of that, treated as criminals. That is a violation of their human rights. It affronts their dignity. And these are matters that I will pursue forcefully. So we will seek to establish the consular fund. And in the KPIs that we will be drafting for our diplomats, we'll also make sure that they prioritize the needs, the concerns, and the plight of Ghanaians who are living abroad. Because really, why establish an embassy if you cannot take care of Ghanaians within that jurisdiction? So that will be a priority area. And I thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. I'm sure our brothers and sisters out there will be excited about your response. I wish to wish you well on your appointment as the Foreign Minister for the Republic of Ghana, and I pray God's blessings for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I proceed to recognize Honorable Amprechum.
Thank you, Chairman, for this opportunity. Honorable Sami, we meet again. Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, MP for the good people of Northern. You are at the verge of becoming the number 3 diplomat of this great country of Ghana, after His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President, Her Excellency Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, the Vice President. Honorable nominee, permit me to remind you that the international arena that you are going to operate in and the diplomatic circles that you are going to engage in is very different from the political terrain that you have been dancing with your propaganda theatrics.
Honorable member, you haven't started well. You are out of order. I'll give you the floor to start well.
Thank you.
Else I'll rule you out.
We have worked and engaged. I have worked and engaged with you on the Foreign Affairs Committee for 8 years, including the last 4 years as the immediate past Deputy Foreign Minister for Political and Economic Affairs. And I can say, without any shred of doubt, that you have the capacity and the capabilities to rise up to the responsibilities of the position of the Minister for Foreign Affairs. If, and only if, you change your suit of sometimes giving disinformation and I have two references as my basis for making that point, and it's extremely important, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. The question is overruled. Ask another question.
Mr. Ablakwa, some 3 or 4 years back, you started a crusade when the ministry was about to purchase a chancellery in Oslo. You came up with all kinds of stories that eventually turned out to be untrue. Eventually, it encouraged a Norwegian lawyer to take Ghana government to court, which eventually ended up in the Supreme Court of Norway. Even though we won it, it cost us a lot of money because of what you did, the information that you put out there, which, like I said, encouraged the Norwegian lawyer to pursue a matter which he had no case.
Order.
That is number one. Number two, recently,
please, are you asking one question or you are asking two questions at the same time?
No. Mr. Chairman, I am laying the foundation for the question. Please, I'm laying the foundation for the question. Without the foundation, it will be difficult for me to ask the particular question that I want to ask.
Without the foundation, the question
now, so the first one was to do with the Norwegian, the purchase of the Norwegian chancellery. The second one, recently, you put out that the ministry has signed up with a company, Access Citizen Ghana Limited, which are supposed to provide front-end premium consular services, just like the services being provided by VFS. And Access Ghana is providing that services to some selected missions abroad. Your accusation was that some corrupted transaction of about $38 million, and that the Ghana government was being shortchanged. There is no truth in this particular matter. Now, in the course of making these allegations, you indicated, and it's constantly something that you've been doing, that you have intercepted. I have intercepted documents. Now, here is the case that you are coming to work in a ministry where you have constantly been saying that you have intercepted, which presupposes that some staff in the ministry has been giving you these documents, or you have been encouraging it. Confidential documents. All the staff in there have signed up to an oath of secrecy and confidentiality. And you are constantly out there saying that you have intercepted. You have intercepted. Putting these officers in very difficult situations. Now that you are coming to work in this particular ministry, how would you take it if documents are leaked and it's being encouraged by, let's say, an outsider?
Honorable Amprachum, what is your question?
I have asked it.
Honorable member, go ahead and answer the question.
No.
Devoid of the aspect of how you are intercepting the documents.
He understands.
Go ahead, answer the questions devoid of how you intercept the documents. Because of what I've always been saying, that we have the Whistleblowers Act.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. And I see that my good brother, the Honorable Amprechum, is probably aspiring to become the next chief interceptor. Let me, on a more serious note, assure the good people of this country that all I have done in my interceptions, in my oversight, in pursuing parliamentary due diligence has always been
Honorable members, let me place on record that I don't want any disruption today. If you are not a member of the committee and you can't comport yourself, kindly walk out.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as I was saying, all the interceptions, the parliamentary oversight, the due diligence I have carried out as MP and ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee has been in the national interest. Indeed, many Ghanaians have celebrated me for saving this country's billions of dollars, not cedis, dollars. I can go through a long list of over 100 exposés which have saved this country billions of dollars. And I would have thought that my colleague will be commending me for saving this country billions of dollars. On the specific matters you raise, Oslo Chancery purchase. Again, I should be commended that I saved this country $12.2 million. Remember that you had appeared before us that you were going to purchase that chancery. You brought us the information that you were about to purchase that chancery based on the $50 million facility that the Honorable Hannah Tete secured before she left the ministry. I then decided to carry out due diligence. And in the work that I did, not being an armchair ranking member who is told that we are going to buy a chancery and then I give you approval, blank check, yeah, go ahead, go and buy it. When I did the due diligence, I discovered that the property had been purchased a few months before Ghana was going to buy it for $12.2 million, for $4 million. And I raised alarm. Indeed, the court documents that I have read, and you rightly confirmed that the Norwegian property owner took the government of Ghana to court. The defense of Ghana is that your ministry, the foreign ministry, did not authorize the official who went to commit Ghana. And that is why Ghana then won the case, and that official was chastised that she didn't have the full approval and authorization to go purchase that chancery. So what I put out was not false. It was fact. The court documents confirm it. You yourself told the judges, the Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, represented us in the Norwegian courts and said that that foreign service official did not have your authorization. The court records are there. I can produce them if the chairman wants to see them. So it's a confirmation of what I put out. And I should rather be commended because, but for me, if what you told the court is true, it means you wouldn't have known that your officials in Norway were committing you to this outrageous purchase, which will have cost Ghana money. So please commend me. I saved Ghana money. Then on access, the visa deal. I am again surprised that you say that that matter is not true. And you see, you can't have it both ways. You can't be complaining about leaks, that people are leaking documents to me from the ministry. And at the same time, you say that I'm just engaged in, putting out a figment of my imagination. I can confirm today that thanks to the oversight that I carried out, the latest information when I was briefed by the directors at the ministry is that that whole transaction did not follow due process. It did not follow the Procurement Act. If it was PPA, if it was a PPP arrangement, it required parliamentary approval. All of that was not followed. So they showed me documents confirming that the ministry has rescinded, has backed out of the deal. And indeed, they've gotten access to write a letter committing that they were no longer going ahead with that agreement. Again, I saved Ghana $38 million. So, please, I know that sometimes when we carry out our oversight, it may not be pleasing to you, but we do it not with malice, not because we don't like you. It's just love for country. As I always say, for God and country. It's a tough job. I'm not happy that so some of you will not like me and all of that. But somebody has to do it. Somebody has to step in and save the country money. And that's my only motivation. All the scandals I've put out have been confirmed. Even, indeed, those who even went to court seeking to take me on, they lost. Check all the court cases. Because I make sure that I always secure unimpeachable, irrefutable, and incontrovertible evidence before I put these matters out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further question?
Question. Mr. Chairman, I go back to this 38 million. It is not true that you have saved Ghana $38 million because Ghana was not going
Honorable member, it is not for you to establish, it is not for you to establish whether it is true or it is not true. If you want to go that tangent, we may not be able to. You have asked a question, the nominee has provided the answer. So how do we create the opportunity for you to say it is not true? He also say it is true. So please take his answer, whether true or not. So proceed to answer, to ask another question.
Before due respect, in that particular transaction, Ghana government was not going to pay any money. That is the point I am making. So if Ghana government is not going to pay any money, how do you save Ghana government that money? That is the point I'm making.
So is that your question?
That is the point I was just trying to clarify.
You are not here to make a point. You can put that to him as a question, and then you can elicit the answer.
Okay. Mr. Nominee, would you agree with me? That was the investigation that you did, and you said the briefing that you had from the officers at the ministry. You came to the conclusion that you did save Ghana the 38 million, and that Ghana was going to pay the 38 million. And if that was the case, can you please tell the committee how that payment was going to happen or come about? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your response, please.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. I thought that the former Honorable Deputy Minister will confirm that they have backed out of that agreement since my expose. I think that's a more fundamental point, that if you felt that nothing untoward had happened, that everything was kosher, that it was a good deal, why did you run away from it when, I did the expose? So,
please, you are not entitled to ask him questions. So provide answers, yes, Chairman, to the question he asked.
I appreciate the guidance. So let's be clear. The $38 million is what Access, the company, stood to benefit from that agreement based on the percentage that will go to that company. If the current arrangement is maintained where the embassies are allowed to carry out their visa processing, that money comes to Ghana, which is the current arrangement. That is why the head of missions were not happy about this arrangement, because Ghana was going to lose money. You were taking money out of the missions, out of IGF, for a private entity. That was the nature of the transaction. That is why I conclude, based on the conservative analysis we did, that we have saved Ghana $38 million. And I can make the agreement available, Mr. Chairman, if the committee would want to see it.
Thank you very much. Any
Chairman,
further questions, or you are done?
There are further questions. I don't want to go there again, because I was highly involved in this particular matter that he's spoken about. Mr. Chairman, I want to ask The nominee. Honorable nominee, in the international multilateral arena, it is changing rapidly. Big alliances are reshaping in in dynamic ways. How do you plan to champion a strong African representation in the international systems?
Well, thank you very much for this well-informed question. And I wish I had 1 hour to answer this, but I certainly don't. You are right.
Please, did you say you need 1 hour to answer the question?
I said I certainly don't have that. So
please.
So, Mr. Chairman, first of all, the changing global dynamics have to be appreciated. We are clearly now in a multipolar world. We've moved from unipolar to bipolar. Now we are in multipolar. We are seeing the growing influence of the BRICS countries. Some of our citizens are even beginning to mount pressure that perhaps we should join BRICS, just as Nigeria did a few weeks ago. And we all know that BRICS is now presenting very interesting options. They have the new development bank, which has about $100 billion available in there, a combined GDP of about 27 trillion US dollars, 40% of the world's population. So in terms of market, that is a large market share. And we all know that our biggest trading partner now is China. And China is at the center, is right in there in this BRICS arrangement. So I think that Africa should really come to this table in a united way. Imagine what we can achieve, as Osajefo said, if we unite. At the UN, for example, the African bloc is the biggest bloc. We have more votes at the UN, but unfortunately we are not united. We don't vote in a particular way. Different, considerations. And it's the same challenge even with trade. Intra-Africa trade is still hovering under 20%. We trade more with Europe and Asia than we trade amongst ourselves. A very, very sad situation. And that's why Kwame Nkrumah muted the idea of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area in Addis Ababa in 1963. It took more than 40 years for it to now be coming into fruition, albeit in a very slow pace. So my response to you will be that let us unite. And I'm glad that President Mahama has so much goodwill. Look at the number of heads of states who attended his inauguration. And already he has so many invitations. He's just returned from Tanzania, Kenya, and everybody wants to, host him and have a discussion with him. And I think that he has that potential of not only becoming the focal point, a potential AU chairman, to really galvanize Africa and get the African nations to unite so that together we can have a common position on what the African interests should be. So that would be my approach. Going back to the Nkrumah template of Africa must unite, let's present a common force. And with that, we are talking about a market of about 1.5 billion. If we unite, we will be such a force that nobody can dare mess with us. But the challenge has been disunity. And that is really my philosophical outlook on these matters.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You just mentioned the African Continental Free Trade. Yes. Mr. Nominee, until the NPP government was able to secure the use of Ghana as the base for the AfCFTA secretariat, Ghana has been an active member of many multilateral platforms, but hasn't really attracted any significant secretariat comparable to the AU in Addis Ababa, or the UN office in Nairobi, or ECOWAS in Abuja. This is important because the borders are attracting jobs into their countries. or these countries are attracting jobs and opportunities into their countries. As foreign minister, how do you plan to leverage this position, Ghana being the secretariat of AfCFTA, to attract something tangible into the country?
I mean, certainly I have gone on record in this House to commend your government for securing the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. And I added, if you recall in that presentation, that it is a testimony of what we can achieve when we unite. I recall that former President Akufo-Addo reached out to former President Mahama, former President Rawlings, God bless his soul, former President Kufuor, and all of us across the divide and said, look, let's form a joint campaign team and campaign for this secretariat. And that is why we were such a formidable force and we secured it. So I'm a bit disappointed that you have tried to partisan it and you have discounted the contributions that all of these former heads of states, particularly from my side of the political divide, did. And don't forget that the reason why it was also easy for Ghana to win the secretariat is because of Ghana's consistency. Kwame Nkrumah had mooted this idea on 25th May 1963, and then in 2012, January 2012, Professor John Evans Atta Mills, a renowned Nkrumahist, revived the discussion at the 18th ordinary session of the AU. He moved the motion that we must go back to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And that is why heads of state said that, look, Ghana's consistency on this matter, you are deserving to host the secretariat. So I think that it's a collective effort, CPP, NDC, MPP, all of us, and it shouldn't be partisan. But having said that, the thrust of your question is how we can leverage this. We need to make sure that we are hosting and winning. So as we host, we are getting more jobs created. Often there are concerns when these secretariats begin to recruit that it doesn't really favor locals and that they bring in a lot of outsiders. And these outsiders often get the top jobs. And then, you know, we are left with jobs that are not that rewarding. I intend to engage with the dynamic Secretary General, Wankele Meni, and I think that we should look at a plan on how we can really leverage on hosting, because we are spending so much money hosting. Some of the staff have also expressed concern about their working conditions and all of that. And I think that these are matters we can discuss in confidence and see how we boost employment opportunities for our people.
Because I overrule your first question, you have your last questions to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Ablakwa, I do wish you well. And I know you will succeed. My last question. The African Union seems to have a credibility problem among young Africans, in that it is perceived as weak and toothless on the international stage. For example, in matters regarding the overstay of certain African leaders in power, the countless tragic deaths of African migrants crossing Sahara and the Mediterranean, and in the vocal defense of African interest on the global stage, the organization is found wanting. The AU, unlike the EU, appears to be too timid on behalf of its people. What would you, as foreign minister, do to help change this negative perception about the AU?
Well, thank you very much, Honorable former Minister, for your kind wishes. And I must place on record that former Deputy Minister, that you prophesied 8 years ago that I will be Minister of Foreign Affairs. So I was quite surprised when in your earlier submissions you sought to take me on. But, Mr. Chairman, on the more serious note, if the Osagefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was alive, his response to this, your question, will be, I told you so. Remember that when he led the Casablanca group. He wanted a more integral, united African states, a strong political force. He added that we must have a standby force, military force, we must have a bank, we must have a common currency, we must remove all trade barriers, trade tariffs, artificial borders, which are relics of the Berlin Conference when Otto von Bismarck called his friends in Europe and shared Africa amongst themselves. But unfortunately, the Monrovia group prevailed. And they said, let's have a loose union without an Africa standby force, without a bank, and all of these, political structures that the visionary Kwame Nkrumah put forward. So I think at the heart of this perception of the AU is about continental Africa unity and how we must go back to the original Nkrumah blueprint, as was espoused by the Casablanca group. And I am glad that already those talks have begun within the AU. There are massive reforms going on. Indeed, some countries have even said that they will not pay their full access contributions unless they see greater reform and see the AU become more, transparent and more, beneficial to the African people. So it's good that those discussions are continuing. President Paul Kagame is leading the reforms, and President Mahama has already struck a very good, chord with him, and I'm sure that they will continue to champion those reforms. But ultimately, you may call me an Nkrumahist, but ultimately, we must go back to Kwame Nkrumah's vision of the United States of Africa. That really is what will make the AU strong and
thank you very much.
More impactful.
I will proceed to give the floor